Okay, we are recording. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this call. And if you guys don't already know me, I know a few of you out there, some of you actually locally where I am, which is really, really cool. But so my name is Sarah Marie Thompson, and I'm from wildandcreative.com. I'm a creative lifestyle expert and soul guide. And so basically what I do is I assist creative souls just like yourself in getting really clear on what's their most soul-aligned journey, in order for them to build a fun and profitable business out of their passions. And if anybody has learned the lessons of what it's like to be a creative person, it is me for sure. I have been through it all, good and bad. Oh my gosh, just like it. But I finally have come to a place where I have been able to balance everything and make sense of everything, which is what I really want to talk to you guys about today. So in this call, is totally casual, so nobody be nervous whatsoever. Just take a few deep breaths and we'll get going. Before I start, if you have not already connected with me in my private group, I'd love for you to do so after the call. So it's Wild and Creative Magic Makers. It's on Facebook there. So please connect with me. I'd love to chat with you after. But again, this call is really about finding out commonalities of our fears, of our beliefs, of our patterns that keep us stuck. I mean, I really feel that everybody in the entire world is a creative person. Like, we create every moment of every day. However, there are some of us that were born a little bit more creative than others. It's that aching in our soul to create. Like, every single day we love putting things together and we love making sense of things. We love organizing things, and however that looks, being a creative person is very amazing on so many levels. However, there is that creative roller coaster of emotion that happens, right? Can anybody say that that's that's them too? So we're easily triggered as well, and that can be as simple as waking up fine and opening the window to find out it's not sunny outside. And then you're just like in a roller coaster of emotion, right? Like, we're so sensitive in that sense. So often creatives are much more sensitive. Hardcore creatives are much more sensitive than others. And being a creative is a blessing and a curse. I think that we can all contest to that as well. It is the ability to see beauty in everything, and then it's also the ability to overthink everything and go in that, be in that spiral, that creative spiral that goes downhill too, right? So we're super hard on ourselves a lot of the time, and we also set massive goals and expectations for ourselves that we sometimes can't meet. Like, can anybody else say that is what they do? And so we can also be really self-critical and have a lot of self-worth issues that don't let us get to the next point of our career, of our life, even make sense of what we're doing, because, as you know, as a creative person, we love to do everything. We love to do everything, and we are excited about starting new projects. So what do? Like, after a while, we've been working on something, we start a new project again. But the reason for that is that, we're coming up against like a block, or we're coming up against a self-worth issue or something like that, which makes it appear to us that we're just kind of bored, but we're really coming up against something. And so therefore our ego's like, shift gears. Okay, now we're working on this. And now we've got like 25 things happening at once, and we're not doing any of them well. We all know that. So anyway, on this call, I really want to kind of let each of you have your own time, if you're willing, to, first of all, share like maybe 2 minutes each of kind of like your story, like where you are creatively, like where you have had hangups or successes, that kind of thing. And then we're going to go around kind of like round robin again and dive into like specific fears around some questions that I have, and different doubts that we have, and that kind of stuff. The whole idea is for us at the end of the call to really confirm that you're not alone as a creative. You have options, and hopefully you can get some insights as well. So that's the idea. What else? Okay, well, I guess we'll start. So I do have a couple questions. Hopefully I'm going to try and be like an hour, if that's okay. Hey, Bonnie, popping on here. I think that's not sure, but that might be Unbreakable Bonnie. If it is, give us a video, Bonnie. Alrighty. So my first question, and I'll just start with Carrie because she's at the top of my screen. Are you okay with that, Carrie?
Woo, woo.
Awesome. So I'll just let you kind of have a few minutes, take the stage for a few minutes, and kind of just share, like, you know, your journey, if you will, and kind of where you've left yourself at right now.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Awesome. I related to everything you're saying about being a creative person, about perfectionism, about taking on too much, and about crashing and burning, and all that stuff. And have been an expressive, creative, dramatic person my whole life, and realizing in my sort of more recently, I turned 50 last August, and I felt like there was a big shift in turning in acceptance of who I am, and you know, realizing that I can probably only tackle and achieve about 1% of the ideas I have. And learning, I think, now to which things to take on and which things to let just float on by and be ideas and be part of the, you know, the minutiae of the day, and maybe take some beauty out of it, but not beat myself up so much if I'm not achieving those things.
Because that's a really big one too. It's like we have all of these ideas, but not all of the ideas are really aligned with our values and interests. We just get so like jumbled up because we love everything, right? So it's all about creating that clear vision, right?
Yes.
Tiff, your turn.
Yeah, look, my experience with creativity is a little bit different because I didn't grow up thinking I was creative. In fact, I kind of thought the exact opposite. You know, when I was in school, I was told I wasn't creative enough, and that, you know, like, art didn't run in my family, none of that stuff. Like, don't worry, we don't do that. And it was only kind of about 5 or 6 years ago that I sort of even discovered my creative side, just because I was miserable living this 9-to-5 life and just, going to my day job and all that sort of stuff. And then, so my husband said, hey, you know, we went on this trip and I started taking photos and stuff like that. And I was kind of like behind him, telling him what he should do while he was taking the photos, even though I knew nothing about photography. I just, like backseat driving the whole thing. And then he's like, how about we get you a camera? And then like that sort of just changed everything. And then all of a sudden I'm trying everything. So
that was
I've done.
Yeah,
it was, and like when I was a kid, I couldn't take photos to save myself. Like I cut off everybody's heads and everybody laughed at me. And then I was like, oh, I'm not even going to touch the camera again, and like, this is back in the days when, like, before digital. So anyway, so I got into photography and now I do like filmmaking, I do writing. I like my day job. I create courses and teach people how to do online business, and
awesome.
I'm doing all these things. And like you said, it's like, I start one project and then I get to this point and I think I'm getting bored. So I move on to something else. But now I kind of realize I come back around to things and it's like, oh no, I just wasn't ready to tackle it yet. And then I'm ready to get into something else. So
awesome.
I know that there's something, like you said, there's this block happening and I like was afraid or whatever, and then I kept back around to it eventually, but it's not really as efficient as it could be. So,
yeah, just your like your ego stepping in to be like, no, it's not safe, like don't go there yet, right? And then you're around to it again. Awesome. Thank you. Let's do Elizabeth.
Hi. So I have kind of a traditional, I guess, artistic background. I come from a family of artists. My mom is a crafter turned hobbyist turned artist kind of thing, and she kind of dragged us along all the way. My mom always had some kind of small business, so like either we're working in the wood shop or we're painting something for her to sell at some craft fair. I was extremely shy. I actually didn't speak to other people till I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Wow.
And so this was the one thing that I was like, I was good at, and it was acceptable in my family. And then my mom forced me to do things in high school, like drama and all this stuff, because she was just convinced I'd turn into like a hobbit on the side of a hill and never talk to anybody and just paint all day. And then as my life continued in my 20s, I always had some sort of creativity, painting, pottery, drawing, art, writing, whatever it was. And I'm 40 years old now, and in November of 15, I tried to start a business again. And it was like my 5th try at trying to start a business with my creativity. And I had no business acumen. I did something completely different this time. I actually got a business mentor and I joined a mastermind. So the last year was like this really intense process of like trying to culminate my ability to be an artist, incorporating this business acumen that I was foreign to me, and also very much like a super sore place of judgment. And then funny enough, after my first business quarter in mastermind, my fellow mastermind members kind of all had like this weird intervention. They were like, your jewelry, your art is really pretty and it's really beautiful. However, your actual talent is more of like vibrational work and articulation of how you perceive things and all that stuff. So I spent the last year since April of 2015 basically consulting, co-facilitating out of other masterminds. And then I made like the official jump. I went from the art, which was like book covers and jewelry and just like anything I could do, because I'm just kind of always trying to stitch together the budget. And then I went straight into this other side of creativity, which is like completely non-physical, and it becomes very out there in a different way. And it's been a really powerful transition, but I could say for the first time in my whole life, I feel extremely settled in the fact that I see myself as like a full spectrum creative.
Nice.
And I'm completely okay with it. Like before I'd be like, oh no, that's kind of crazy. That's a bit much. Like slow down, Liz. And now I'm like, just fuck it. Let's just do it all. So I really enjoyed it. I actually retired my whole physical studio because I decided to do the digital thing and be all nomadish with my daughter.
Yeah.
We're going home for the summer because her friends are off to school. So I'm really like, maybe I'll get a little jewelry thing for just a little bit, you know, because it's always there. It's always there.
Yeah. And it must have been really hard for you in a sense to be like, okay, I'm making the conscious decision to put aside my studio. Cause like for someone that loves creating, like that's a huge deal. And then move into the non-tangible side of things, because
and of course the minute I said I wasn't doing jewelry or the artwork anymore, that month was my biggest month in my whole life. I mean, I almost hit 5 figures in that month, and I was like, where were you guys for the last 15 years? It just was like a confirmation, though. I took it as like, instead of I made the wrong choice, I took it as a beautiful gift to be like, okay, you're going to travel, this is your gift money, like a severance pay for my creative world, I guess.
Because we all have these different soul gifts, and you can still be a creative and have different like aspects of your gift. So maybe connection is your number one or something like that, but creativity is still in there too. I know for me, like creativity is my number one. Like I like to provide people with experiences and like have that like physical, tangible kind of idea. However, you know, when we are not aligned specifically like to what our soul gifts are, that's when we can like find that resistance, right? So you just kind of
absolutely,
or you just kind of like change them around, and therefore it started working out for you, which is awesome. So cool.
Les Momies was a big part of my shift, my transition to finding my first gift, which was love, and then it just kind of worked from there.
Love it. Perfect. Thank you so much. Sheena, your time.
Hello, my name is Sheena. I've always been creative in some way all through school, whether it be drawing, painting, scrapbooking, clay work, everything. And in my recent life, over the past 6 years or so, I've really picked up acrylic painting, and that has been such a gift for me. You know, it's allowed me to kind of work things out in my head, and I've even sold a lot of pieces, which has been fantastic. And for me right now, it's bridging the gap between, okay, I'm too scared to make my creative passions like my first income because I'm scared that I won't be able to make ends meet with that. And also I don't want my, painting is like my, what do you say? It's kind of like my therapy in some way. And I don't want to corrupt it by making it like, okay, I have to finish this piece because this is how I'm going to eat this month. Like, I don't want to
ruin it.
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it. And so I'm really stuck because I'm so scared. It's like everything in the universe is pushing me into this direction, but I am like, screeching my heels because I'm so scared. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life. So yeah.
Well, there's lots of ways to move around that. I know that Carrie up in the corner there, she has been an artist for a number of years. And, I don't want to let you guys have your time too, but Carrie, I know, has, painted a lot, but also made like greeting cards and all of that. You've really stretched the boundaries, right? So there's always opportunities. All right, Stephanie.
Hello, I'm Stephanie. Basically, I have zero creativity, and I apologize in advance. I've been battling with my internet connection for the last week, so
we can hear you great.
It sticks with me for a little while. Awesome, good. Okay, so I have zero creativity in my background. Basically, I got my degree in psychology, so obviously very black and white for the most part. After that, I went into law enforcement, where you don't think outside the box. You don't do anything without permission. You do X, Y, and Z because that's what the policy says. So I did that for most of my adult life. And then in October of last year, because of an injury, I found myself, I call it retired because it makes me feel better about myself, but basically I had to quit law enforcement because of an injury, and so now I've basically been thrown into a whole nother world. So basically I can't do the quote-unquote run-of-the-mill jobs that other people would. So I'm frantically trying to get a few things going. Animal massage was my first, switch out of that, and freelance writing, which has actually been the only lucrative thing so far, which I wasn't planning on, but that's what happened. So that's fine. So basically, I have to be creative, and so I've been trying the last couple months to be on my own, be a freelancer, figure things out for myself, think outside the box. And so it's been kind of scary, kind of weird, a lot of mixed results, but I think I'm finally getting closer to where I need to be. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Hands up if you've been scared about your creativity before. So, well, that's so cool. I love hearing stories like that where the universe tosses you out of your job, essentially. It's like, girl, you're not listening to me. Like, here's something else to work on, right? So that's a perfect, beautiful story about that. So writing is very
absolutely. Yes, and it's something that I've been doing for a while, even if it was just, the Facebook posts or whatever. Everybody was like, you need to take up writing. And I was like, no, that's silly. Why would I do that? You can't make a living. But then you look around and people can do it. So, I mean, I'm not making a living yet, but it's something that's definitely on my list. So I'm okay with that.
The thing is like this day and age, like if anybody has any reservations or is scared in any way about having their creativity not bring them an income, it's like 2017 couldn't be like the biggest year yet of, especially with the internet, especially with everything, of making a ton of money, like with your creativity. And, whether or not you want to make a ton of money, I'm just saying you can make a really good income, because now it's like all the creatives have stepped out of the woodwork and are like, I'm so individual and authentic and different than this creative and that creative. Like none of us are the same, that I can personally like absolutely make something for myself. And the internet is so beneficial for creatives. So it's kind of funny too, because often technology creatives don't like go together, which is kind of funny. So the best thing about it though is that you have tons of options, right? So anyway, just wanted to say that. Anna Barker, it's your time. And P.S. I'm actually married to a Barker.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you guys are related.
I don't know. It'd be fun to find that out. Basically, I have been somewhat creative for a long time. My sister was always more creative than me, so I didn't view myself as the creative one of the family or anything like that. But I knew I already know that I liked business. So that was kind of one thing that I had established. I did kind of jump into a couple different creative fields. I had an Etsy shop doing some like watercolor print cards and things like that. But I really realized that I wanted to do something that was a little bit more functional for people. So that's when I got into photography. Actually, I took a photography class when I was in school for design, and I was like, okay, switching over to this. And then I actually dropped out of school completely just to run my own photography business. So this is my first full year in that. It's been really good, but I am learning. The more I find out, the more I find out that I don't know. So I'm learning that just to be more specific, I think, in general, just to start something is way better than to just sit at home and dream about starting something. So with photography, I always knew I would be doing some sort of business, whether it was photography or not, but I really enjoy it. But just finding ways that I can just bless my customers and clients more, build the business, give great customer service and all of that has been great. But on the creative side, it's been fantastic to just learn about like really focusing on how I want to be creative and in what ways are actually fulfilling and what ways are really just me kind of running around not making any progress, because I think as creatives it's really easy to do that when we have all of these dreams but we're not really walking toward any of them. And I'm finding that walking toward even just one or two dreams really gets me closer to a lot of the others. So yeah, that's me.
Well, like when you focus your energy in a million different directions, you're not really focusing it properly.
Right.
That's a huge thing for us. And it's great that you said, you know, getting off the couch and doing something really makes a difference, because the thing is that clarity doesn't come from thinking about it. It comes from taking action. Right? Mm-hmm. That's like number one to like remember. So, you know, we can journal and we can like you know, we can just like think about things forever and like dream. But until we take action and realize, I don't really like that specifically. Or, you know, I thought that I would love making jewelry, but it isn't like my thing now, like that kind of thing. Right? You really get more insight from taking action. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mary Jane, can you hear me? I don't know if you can unmute yourself, or I'll give you a couple seconds there. Okay, Mary Jane, we'll come back to you after if you unmute yourself and let me know. Okay. Okay, so here, I'm going to start with these questions now, okay? So we'll start with Carrie again. So as a creative person, in your day-to-day life, what would you find is your biggest challenge? And if you can just take like again, 2 minutes each, and we're going to kind of go around.
My biggest challenge, it sort of seems to be almost a theme for us today, is that choosing what to focus on and battling with things that are not my natural skill set and take me much longer to do than the things that are. Mm-hmm. So, for example, like 3 years ago, I started a studio, an inner city studio space with a classroom in it for teaching specifically creativity and art. And it's turned out to be a lot more, you guys will probably laugh at this, but it's turned out to be a lot more administration than I had planned on, thinking that I was, you know, kind of putting myself in a place where I was creating a job with my creativity. Right. Turned out to be more that I was creating, you know, something that was business related and administrative. Mm-hmm. And so I'm constantly kind of in this tension between wanting to be with the people, wanting to teach creativity, teach art, facilitate, you know, the kind of stuff we're talking about. And then having to pull myself away and do these administrative things that are like probably at the bottom of my wheelhouse. Like I'm just not good at them. So they take me much longer to do. And I find it tough to figure out where to focus. on those things so that I can get them out of the way and do the real work.
And, you know, it probably is, it's like how our mind is fragmented, right? Like we have like this whole part of like our brain thinking like, oh, I can't even work on stuff until this administration stuff is done. And it just takes away your luster and your brilliance, right? And the thing is, whatever we don't like doing, we're really wasting time doing it. So there are those parts of our businesses that we need to work on. However, it's really making that decision where you're like, okay, if I delegate this to somebody who does it for a business, you know, I might be paying them to do it and it's scary at first because I don't necessarily have that extra money. However, think about the time it takes you to learn how to do that, or the time it takes you to, you know, do all your paperwork and all your admin stuff. When really paying somebody who loves to do that stuff, you know, for 2 hours has just freed up a whole 2 days for you, right? So it's kind of like you have to kind of get on the other side of that mindset. But yeah, that is frustrating for sure. I get it. Tiff, your turn.
So what was it? The one biggest thing that we struggle with? Was that the question?
In your day-to-day, what would be your biggest challenge as a creative person?
Yeah, just because while Carrie was talking, I came up with about half a dozen. So, but my first answer was probably fear for me. Although pretty much I resonate with heaps of what Carrie was saying. It's like fear, focus, and then working out how to balance, like actually being creative with like the business side, which I find weird because like I went to uni for business, and so I sort of did business first before I started my creativity. But I find I'm in like one headspace or the other. And like I can put my business hat on and then I like lose touch with my creativity and actually creating things. Right. And then if I put my creative hat on, I lose touch with the business side of things. And fear obviously is just, you know, am I working on the right thing? Pushing through those boundaries when you're working on something new. Yeah.
Right. I think a lot of people will definitely get what you're saying there. Elizabeth, what about you?
I think I find the majority of my time I focus on mindset and what I'm actually like my internal landscape. I find that for myself, because all these things I can totally relate to. I think as a creative and as an independent business person, these are all just like what's on the plate. They're very universal. So I find myself just doing a lot more. I mean, I work 5 to 6 hours a day and I'll spend 2 to 3 hours just on my mindset stuff with, you know, like I got a bag of tricks in there. It's gigantic. And so I think that's really, truly to me, the thing I focus the most on loving up and strengthening.
And do you find the mindset work, do you find it draining to think about doing it, or do you find it uplifting?
No. It's kind of like when I used to be a jogger. I used to be a runner, not in this town. But it's kind of like when you don't do it, how you feel different, and you're like, ugh. If I don't do it, there's no point in like trying to do business that day for me, whether it's creating, whether it's writing, whether it's like all the other little things you have to do to put yourself out there. To me, it's like if I don't do it. So I actually look forward to it, and all the exercises I have and I've retained, I do it because I enjoy them specifically. Right. I really try not to force anything anymore.
That's the thing, like always just doing the things that we love to do. And if you can even imagine, what I always do is I create a sheet of paper every few months and I put on it love, like, dislike, and want to do later. And I go through every single thing that I do in my life and I write down if I love that, or if I like that, or if I don't really like that. And actually the list of dislike, because we go on autopilot with it, you'll find that it like grows and grows. So it's really good for you to become aware of like what you don't like doing, because that's just wasting your energy, right? So thank you for sharing that. Stephanie.
I think the thing that I have the most trouble with on a day-to-day is overall, I think guilt is what I would kind of attribute to it. Basically, you know, I used to work the 14-hour days every single day. You go to work, you do stuff, you come home, and yay, you made money. And that's not how it is now. So now I get up, I do things that I enjoy. I go walk the dogs, I go for a hike, I catch up on house cleaning, whatever. So I usually don't get started until, you know, noon or something. And to me, my mindset, because that's what's been ingrained, is that if you don't start till noon, then you're lazy and this isn't your priority and this, that, and the other things. So I've been working on switching my mindset around a little bit on that. And I met with a gal last week who really helped me. And so basically just switching the mindset around to that's okay. That's how your new job is. So it's getting better, but I would say guilt is one of the biggest things that I've dealt with lately.
That is so huge, I think, for so many creatives, because when we have created a business around what we love, it usually means that we have a little bit more freedom to choose. We're not going into that 9 to 5. We're not getting up at 7 or 6 or what have you in the morning. And some of our loved ones and family and friends still are. But that is, they have to make the decision to change too, if that's what they want to do. Some people love their job like that. But absolutely, I can totally what you're saying about guilt, because it is something that is probably one of the most trickiest things to clear within yourself when it comes to a belief or a pattern. And that just is really, getting to the point of being very comfortable with the decisions that you make, because you only have this one life here as this physical person. And you have to make the most of it, right? So at the end of your life, if you can imagine saying to yourself, well, no, I stayed to the 9 to 5 and I just kept going with that because I didn't want to make anyone else feel bad. So that doesn't make any sense, right? We want to make the best of this life possible. And usually doing our creative passions, that helps. So anyway, thank you for sharing that. Anna, I'd love to know what your answers are.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's a lot of things, and I'm sure also some things that I have yet to identify. But I think some of the biggest things for me have been just not getting too caught up in details and to keep moving forward. I have all these different ideas that I want to do, like different aspects of my business I'd like to add, or different services I want to offer, products I want to sell. And I think just to keep moving forward and saying, okay, what little steps can I take today, and actually take them and do them and cross them off the list, instead of looking at the list and saying, oh, it's so long, I don't think I can do any of that. Yeah. Or I don't think I can tackle that. So I think for me, the biggest struggle is to not get super caught up in the details, but to also break things down a little bit more and look at them in the sense of like, okay, what can I get done today that's going to keep me moving forward?
Right. That's such a huge point, is really like, just segmenting your list so that it's not so overwhelming, even if we don't think it's overwhelming. But when we have 50 things written down on there, it, as creative people, we also love to check things off the list as easily as possible. So I totally get what you're saying there. That's a big one. Sheena.
For me, my focus is kind of all over the place right now. I just don't know which avenue I want to go down, because there's 20 of them that I think would be super awesome, but they're all not feasible at this time. And it's also just figuring out that one that is going to, bring in some income and not like bankrupt me, but not lose the joy that I have. So I'm really in a hazy place, because I can take this anywhere, but I just don't know where to go, because this is so different than my 9 to 5, right?
Right.
And I still want to enjoy it, and I'm actually really lost. I'm really lost right now. Yeah. So basically I'm just all over the place. And it's also the guilt too, like, I'm dedicating how many hours a day to like my art, and here it's like this fun thing, but I'm not really making income, so I feel bad for being in my studio too. Right. So like I'm wrestling with that.
And it's the really tricky part of, being a creative and getting your creative passion business off the ground, is that you do have to spend some time with it and finding out what parts of it you really enjoy and really diving into it more. And that can often be kind of like an issue, especially for couples, or for that guilt part of it again. And because if your partner isn't as creative as you or entrepreneurial as you, and they have more of a traditional mindset, which is usually the case, it's tricky. That can make a little bit of waves. So you just have to be open to always expressing your emotions and your feelings around what you're doing. And it's not that it kind of sucks, right? Because we feel like we always have to be validating it and why we're doing this. And oh, honey, I made $200 right now. I'm doing something. Don't worry, right? But
then it's how much did you spend to make that $200?
I totally get what you're saying, but I mean, yeah, smart business decisions, obviously. However, there has to be some trial and error there too.
Yeah.
And but thanks for being honest, because I think a lot of people, especially creatives, go through times where we don't know what we're doing because, you know, even if there's something that's working, we are feeling pulled to try something new, right? So that's kind of like the roller coaster, right? So let's see here. Anna, Mary Jane, are you there? Mary Jane might just be listening. I think she might be working right now, secretly. Okay, so my next question for you guys is, and this can be like a quick kind of answer, is do you find that naturally being a creative mind is draining or uplifting or a big mix of both? Carrie.
Oh, wow. That's a great question. For me right now, it is definitely a big mix of both. And like I said before, I turned 50 last summer, and it's been a really big shift for me in that way, and almost like re-embracing the kind of hobbyist part of myself, because I had wanted so much for my creativity to be the thing that was kind of my 100% job, you know? And I've had to branch out into all different kinds of directions, some that don't feel super creative. So I think there was something about turning that 5-0 that kind of made me embrace my hobbyist artist in myself, and sort of finding community again on social media, especially Instagram, kind of clicking through on like hashtags of things that I was really truly interested in. I can't think of another word except just like as a hobby. So, and doing things that helped me to shed that guilt that we were talking about, the guilt that I'm not, that my art didn't feel businessy enough or didn't feel accomplished enough or whatever, that I went back to, like right now I'm just kind of addicted to pen and paper and drawing mandalas and stuff. And so I'm on Instagram and I'm just looking at mandalas, and it's just like, it's a really cool feeling to get back to what I feel like maybe Sheena's struggling with a little bit right now, that art can really feel good, and that's all it needs to be. And then maybe the next piece of that is just having faith that the thing that feels great about being an artist, about being a creative, may or may not lead to that thing that we see in the future, but it might turn into something that's unexpected, you know?
So for you, a big thing has been now letting yourself follow your curiosities, right? Which maybe before, you know, you were in a little bit more of like a masculine business mindset, like for your business, getting it up, going, running, the administration, all that kind of thing. Where if you go into more of the intuitive, following your curiosities point of view, that's more of the feminine, right? So that's where.
Yeah, I really, that really fits actually. And maybe again, it has to do with the age factor and feeling like, you know, like my kids are just kind of leaving home, and I kind of have that feeling of being that sage older artist woman, letting my hair start to go gray, and you know, just embracing that.
Frankie and Grace.
Yeah, that's right.
Tiffany.
Yeah, for me, like overall creativity is like energizing for the most part, but definitely depends, like certain projects or when I'm doing stuff out of my comfort zone. Like I got my first gig to be an assistant shooter for a wedding a few weeks ago, and I spent the whole time kind of like stressing out underneath it all. Like I'm not even sure if I smiled at the wedding because I was so busy thinking, what are my camera settings? Am I getting everything? Have I missed the vital shots? And and I mean, I was only the assistant, thank God, but yeah, like it just depends. But for the most part, it's invigorating, and I definitely wouldn't go back to being non-creative like ever. So.
So the draining part's in the not trusting yourself part. Right?
Yeah. Oh, and just like when I'm trying something new, or whether or not a project's going to work and stuff. And yeah, I guess
Right.
that kind of comes back to that fear of failure, I guess. But working through it, working on it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one of the laws of the universe is the law of control. So you are as happy as you feel in control of your life. And so that control part, that's what a lot of creatives really love. And I have found personally that control is a really big word for me. Someone had asked me a couple months ago, they're like, what are the things that you have done in your life that you felt so amazing with? And I was telling them the different things. And they're like, well, it seems that these are very physical things that you had total control of. Because we were just talking about, I have a book with a literary agent and I have no control over it. And I was like, yeah, I think that's why I don't like this process, because I don't have control. It's like you just have to take that to faith, right? So got it.
Yeah. Definitely a big word in my life. Yeah.
Stephanie.
I would have to agree with what everybody said so far. Is it's draining if you don't have control. It's draining if you don't know what you're doing. But if you're doing the thing that you love, or if I'm doing the thing that I love, then it's super energizing, super good, super inspiring. It's just when you, I don't know, I guess the learning curve is draining. But so I'd say 50-50 split, like everybody else, I think.
Sheena?
For me, I think the most part is definitely uplifting. I mean, when I am painting, I work things out in my head. You know, I'm in like a super good mood, or if I went down there in a terrible mood, I come upstairs and I'm like super happy and whatever. But I think now it's more of like, 80% uplifting and now 20% kind of draining, because, I'm wanting to take this passion of mine and bring it into a business, but it's a little bit daunting. So that's kind of where I am. It's more uplifting at this point, but I definitely agree with everybody. I mean, there's both, right?
And most of you, I know that I do, specifically with painting and that kind of thing, even with gardening, when we're in that space of creation, it's almost like a more of a meditative space. So, we can be painting or gardening or what have you for 2 hours and think to ourselves like, I haven't thought of anything at all. And it's that space of neutrality that is really beneficial for you when you know what you want to create in your life, or you know what that outcome is, because when you get to that meditative neutral state, that's when your energy is so much more expansive, and of course it's going to go out into the universe and boomerang back to you with what you are experiencing, right? So those meditative creative spaces are really, really good to get into if you can, as much as possible. Elizabeth.
I find my creative energy or my creative experiences to be very uplifting. I mean, even when I wasn't doing art, I could creatively get out of any problem. I've always had a way to put a twist on whatever I'm doing. So to me, I've always seen it as like the ultimate lube of life, where I'm like, woo, I can slide through anything because I've got this, It just works. I appreciate it very much.
I bet you can talk yourself out of anything with that face too, right?
I really work it. Sometimes I put on a little mascara, try to cause a little wind over here.
Anna.
For me, I think I would describe it more of like an exchange, because I see what I do as very fulfilling. I love that I get to have my own business and be in control of some of those factors of my life. It's so rewarding, but at the same time, it's not energizing for me. It depends on what I'm doing, I guess, because if I'm mostly an introvert, if I'm there shooting a wedding for 8 hours, that's an exhausting day for me. But then the whole rest of the week I get to spend at home editing in my sweatpants. So I guess I really learned, even within the past month or so, as I've gone full time into it, that I need to set boundaries of when you do what you love. I think it's just such a myth that you don't work a day in your life, because it's not true. It's still work, but you enjoy it, which is fantastic. But I've just found that for me, I really need to stop at a certain point, put a podcast on and go for a long walk with my dog, or go to the gym, or just sit down and watch a movie with my husband and not have my computer open or whatever. So I guess it's kind of more of an exchange, and I just have to balance it out with the energy that I'm putting out, even doing something that I enjoy, has to be replaced with something else that doesn't require any brain power or anything like that from me.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, because the editing part, although that is very creative in itself, you know, as most of the time, creatives really desire that, like, that physical hands-on creation part of things. And so when you get like really involved with technology, that can be the really draining part too, right? If that's not what jam is, right? So thank you. Mary Jane? Okay. Carrie, again, for you, what is the most troubling belief that you have around your skills and talents when it comes to creating your success?
Troubling belief.
Give me a couple doozy beliefs.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think I was raised, I can remember from like earliest memories I had being, first of all, I was definitely a square peg in a round hole as far as being a creative in a family of pragmatists and hard workers. And I was very much that child that sort of had like that dreamy head in the clouds, my report cards all red. You know, if Carrie would stop gazing out of the window, she might actually be successful, that kind of thing. And my dad was a farmer for 43 years, and I think I was raised with the belief that if you're not suffering and it doesn't hurt, that you're not working hard enough and you're not doing the right thing. So that's been something that's kind of chased me my whole life, coupled with that sensitivity that you were talking about earlier, Sarah. That my physical form, my physical body is not capable of the type of hard work that I was raised to believe that was the only way to live. I could never be a farmer or anything because my physical body just is not strong. And I suffer with a lot of, not really illness, but just not physically strong. So can you ask the question again, Sarah?
Yeah. What would be your most troubling belief around the skills and talents when it comes to creating your own success? So that would be a belief, like you said, you have to work hard and feel the sweat and tears in order to succeed, right? Which isn't the case.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think that probably is my most troubling belief, that I'm never going to be successful if I'm a very in the clouds artist, that I'm never going to accomplish anything. And like I can just remember my dad especially saying to me, well, what are you doing? You're never going to make any money at that. And that was kind of a phrase that repeated itself throughout my life. Like, you're never going to make it doing that. You're never what are you doing that. And so that, even though in my heart I don't believe in that's true, and I would never tell anybody else around me that that's true, it's kind of like a deep seated belief that I've kind of grappled with my whole life.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think that's one that a lot of people can definitely resonate with. Let's see here. Okay. Tiff, what do you think?
Yeah, look, for me, it's kind of like these two like interjoined thoughts, and one is I'm not good enough, especially like I didn't sort of discover my creative side like in my teens or earlier, like, and the other one is like this thing on rotation, which is like don't give up your day job, which is like this thing that used to go around like in the 80s and 90s, like on sitcoms and stuff. If there was an artist or somebody doing something creative, be like, oh, don't give up your day job. And yeah, like, I mean, like I still sort of have like a part-time day job, which, is like, I want to get rid of it. I'd love to do my, like anything creative full time, but yeah, that's definitely holding me back, and sort of this call's helped me realize that that's even happening. So yeah.
Nice. Stephanie.
Basically, it's like, I know I have the skills, I know I have the training, but are they things that people are actually going to want to pay money for? I know that they're very valuable, and I know that that the benefits are astronomical, but my concern or my fear is, or my mindset or whatever, is saying, okay, but who's going to pay for it?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's kind of led me down the path of offering my services for free instead of being compensated for them. So it's kind of shooting myself in the foot, but I don't believe that other people are going to pay money for my skills. Even though, like I said, they're awesome, if I do say so myself, but it's just that disconnect, I guess, between just because I think it's great doesn't mean the rest of the world thinks that it's great.
So you have a major belief about self-worth, which most creatives have, and it's that, well, other people can make money doing that, but just not me. They're just not going to want me to do it, right? And I think the thing is that that's something that we all have dealt with or are dealing with now, but the whole part of that and the whole business part of it, there's a whole second piece to really identifying like who is your perfect ideal client and who's your perfect target market. And when you get so unbelievably like narrowed down with your authenticity, but also like where you should be going with that, you target like all the right people. So it's not so broad. It's not such a big umbrella statement being like, hey, I do freelance writing. Oh, nobody's calling me? Well, you're talking to everybody. So you're not really talking to anybody specific, right? So it's just like really narrowing it down. And then you don't have, you'll lose a lot of those doubts too, right?
A big thing, can I just, one more thing on that. One of my big problems is that I'm not my ideal client. So I have trouble kind of selling things like that when I'm like, well, would I even do that?
Okay.
Because, I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't buy it, so why am I expecting other people to buy it, even though, I probably should.
Well, for sure. Gosh, I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing business that they aren't their ideal client. However, it is nice to really know who you are as a person and have your business really kind of model after who you are, because there's that much more connection with the people that you work with and the people that you connect with, because you can understand them that much more. So, maybe we can talk behind the scenes after, but maybe it's just that you really kind of need to narrow down your focus specifically to something that makes more sense to you and connects more with you and your soul. That might make a lot more sense, right?
Sure.
Not changing what you're doing, but just changing the direction you're doing it in, right?
Okay.
Cool. Sheena.
For me, I'm definitely mirroring Stephanie, where it's like, I know I have talents and skills, but do people want to buy them? Am I as good as the next person in the other booth? That's kind of my troubles. Like, I know I've got it. I have something anyway. And I've also learned that I'm pretty good at, teaching people some of my skills or whatever as well. But yeah, it's just wondering if I'm good enough to make some money at this, because there are so many artists out there, and is my style, different enough that it's going to catch somebody's eye, or am I like the other Tom, Dick, and Harry out there? That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, again, I think it's like that really big knowing, I hate using the word authenticity so much, but it's the only good word for it. That authenticity piece where it really narrows you down as to why you're doing it and what you want people to feel like with that art, right? Because that's really going to separate you from the next person beside you in the booth, right? So that's a very valid concern.
Thank you.
Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth, you're off.
Good, because I was kind of stalling. I think it's a weird question because I do so much to really transmute the things that I find that are negative. But I could say the thing that sticks with me or that might pop up more than anything else has to do with being new to this kind of work and saying, yes, I am new, and yes, I am profitable.
Mm-hmm.
There's something in there sometimes that I got to do a little extra work on, and I think a lot of people that are contemporaries in my field also happen to be older, and because I ran into issues in the beginning where they're like, because I got to partner up with some people. I had some great collaborations where I received this kind of backlash of like, first of all, where'd you come from? Second of all, you're 20 years younger than the rest of us. How do you think that blah, blah, blah? So, but I've done, like I said, I spent a lot of time doing that mindset where I just go in there and I love on it. And I find tons of examples that tell me that my work is valid and good and true. And I just literally rehearse the shit out of that all the time. I constantly replay those things. So I'm basically flushing that stuff out. But that would probably be my most troubling, because it's kind of like knocking myself out at the gate with something I can't control, which is my age. I can't, that's something I can't change. But I've also found it to be really valuable to fuerza, like it gives you a little bit of that punch where you're like, you have to take it in, and then you find a little bit more of yourself from that impact, that ricochet kind of moment.
Yeah. I totally understand what you're saying. I had an interior design business when I was really, really young, when I was, very early 20s. And one of my biggest, I think it became a fear. I didn't really think of it at first, but I'd often show up on a site and the contractor on duty would be like, so how old are you? And I'd be like, oh, how old are you? You know what I mean? Like, they kind of caught me off guard, but I heard it so many times it became a belief that I'm too young to be successful, right? It's just like a very silly thing. Again, and there are people, maybe some of you have this, creatives not so much, but we think that we can't be successful or we can't do this or that because we don't have a certificate or a degree or what have you. And I think that that is valid for doctors or for surgeons, right? You want to make sure your surgeon has a degree or more, but we set these little doors up and these gates up for ourselves so that we can't get to the next part, or it feels better not getting to the next part. Like it's kind of comforting our ego or our soul, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Anna.
I actually have several, and I kind of wrote them down as we were talking so I wouldn't forget. But several of the ones that everyone else talked about have been huge for me. So one of the main ones I think is that success has to be limited, like it's a pie. So like if I get a piece, that means someone else isn't getting a piece. Like there's just a certain amount. And if I'm as successful as I want to be in my business, that means that someone else in Africa is starving or something. And it's just ridiculous. And another one, I can't recall who exactly said this, but just that my audience is not exactly like me, or like I had in my mind that I was marketing to myself, and I was like, okay, my budget for my wedding wouldn't have afforded me, so should I be charging this? And
right.
Yeah, that I should be, because my audience is not me or my past self, I guess. So there's that, and then just that there'll be a day when I'll wake up and my dream will be there that morning and not this gradual journey to it. Like it's just all over the place that, happiness is like not this attainable like location. Like you're not just going to be there. I think for me, it's been learning to like appreciate this journey that I'm on right now. And as I can check things off my dream list and things like that, then wonderful. But that's not going to make me happier than I am right now. It'll be something that I am excited to attain, but it's not going to make me happier than I am right now. So I guess just that like there's this destination that I'll arrive at one day and then recognize that I'm there, and that's just not true.
Yeah, a lot of people have that fear of actually getting to their goal, because then they're like, then what? Like, does that mean that my whole journey's over? Will I have something new? I think we all know that we're always growing and evolving, so we probably will have more goals and more things to work for. But it is kind of like that final chapter, the fear of the final chapter of this. Is it going to be a victory for us, or is it going to be really sad because we've actually made something for ourselves? Like, it doesn't even make sense, but that's really, where it can come from. And as creatives, like you mentioned, the fear or the belief that if you have more, other people are without. And I think that that's a huge one, because as creatives, we are more sensitive and we feel the injustice of the world so much more deeply. And I'm a huge animal advocate lover, and I like to, raise money for different things. And I, for a long time, had the belief that for me to make money, if I'm making money, that means that the money's not going to them. I really have going to my charity or going to the people that are in need, right? And that can be like hard for us. However, the thing that we have to remember is that there is a lot of negativity in the world too. However, maybe if we're making money, we can be the money managers of how that's circulating and how we are the light workers of where the money's going, not to the negative people, right? Mm-hmm. But to the things that we really want it to go towards, right? I know that's a really big belief for creatives, like feeling as though we're not worthy of it because there's other stuff going on in the world that needs it more than us, right? Mm-hmm. Alrighty. So I have one more question, and I'll try to like wrap up soon, so I'm respectful of your time. Okay, how have your self-worth beliefs around creativity, around your ability to create, affected your ability to earn money around your passion? So where have those self-worth beliefs like got in there and really messed things up? Carrie.
Yeah, my self-worth beliefs have, that's been probably the single biggest challenge that I've had to deal with, because my deepest desire is to teach and facilitate and connect people around their creativity and help to pull that out of people. And so I've used mixed media kind of as my platform, not to teach art necessarily, but to help people dig down into the depth of their own creativity. Mm-hmm. And I see, like, I have a vision of myself speaking and facilitating really big groups and helping connect people with their soul's desire through creativity. Mm-hmm. But then I will be so, I don't know, maybe it's that thing of that it's kind of been a theme today, is that my ideas are so massive and my self-belief is so small that I don't start.
So they're not matching up. Yeah.
And I tend to isolate around that. Like I'll have some really bad days where just even going to the grocery store feels like a big thing. And then I'm like, how can I be this person that wants to be on stage facilitating, joy and spirituality and creativity, and I can't even get in the car and go and buy my groceries.
Yeah. But it's probably the fact that groceries aren't inspiring, and then the other thing is inspiring, right? So we often get more drained with those things we're not inspired with, and we get more like pumped up, exciting for the ones that we are inspired with, right? So that's where a lot of your fuel will come from.
Yeah, totally.
Tiff.
Let's see. So for me, I guess like it's my self-worth, like I didn't really think about it as self-worth, but it's definitely this whole thing of I haven't been doing, my art or craft very long. So, I haven't charged people, I haven't always, like, because I'm kind of building my portfolio, but it's like at some point I've got to get to this point where I start charging. And then other times I'm like on an upswing and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to charge this much. And then people don't want to pay it. So then I like put my prices down or something like that. And then like I said, just recently I did like that second shooting for a wedding, and that was another photographer who actually paid me for my work. And, like that was kind of like a huge, like, okay, you know what, I can do this. I can get back into this. But definitely. I'm not charging. I'm not running a profitable business. And yet if I had my business hat on and I just had a normal product, I'd have no problem. But because it's my creativity and I'm like, is it good enough? Who would pay for that?
Yeah.
Don't give up your day job, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my biggest beliefs for a really long time was that I could only make money with a tangible product. So if I look back over the years and all the like different things like coloring books that I created or what have you, like it was a tangible product, and I had no problem saying like, hey, this is worth this much and you're going to pay it, and they would. But like when it comes to your services and like the value that you personally put around your services, that's where those self-worth beliefs like really like step in. And so the thing is, you have to just get in touch with your intuition and really like find prices that feel good to you, just knowing that you can increase them later, right? So just say you're doing some service related thing and it's like $150 an hour and that just feels like really good to you. I would definitely just run with that and stay firm at it until you get, a few clients or what have you, and feel more confident in just raising it to $175 and then $2, you know what I mean? So you don't have to start at $5,000. I know some people just say like start at the top because that's what you should do, but you really want to start at a place where your energy feels really good about your decision, because or else you're not going to, bring in that income, right? So it's all about feeling good about all of your choices. All right, Stephanie.
Okay, so my self-belief of my self-worth is that I'm awesome, and that's how my prices are reflected on my website. But the reality is that, again, I don't see other people seeing value, so I give it to them for free or for super discount or something. So I'm really not making any money. So, and I think my big issue with that is, like you were saying, how do you put a price tag on something that's not tangible? I mean, my businesses are service oriented. So how do you put a price on my time? When I was getting a certain per hour pay, I could easily say, well, an hour of my time is worth X. Mm-hmm. Well, now what? Now it's just me getting in my car, going to this place, doing my thing, and then coming back. So, I mean, it's it's subjective. So how do you put a price on that, even though my service is valuable, but beyond that, is it valuable to other people? So
can you not make yourself feel more comfortable with kind of like packaging your services like on your website so that, say, like, for example, what would you do for somebody? You would do like, is it copywriting or what do you do?
I do that. The one that I'm kind of thinking about when I'm talking about this is my animal massage. So I do packages of like, 4 for this much, which is a discount of my discount. So it's kind of like, again, it's something, but it's not what it's worth. It's not what it's worth.
Right. Okay. So, for example, say somebody has a copywriting business. I'm just going to use that for an example.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people would say, okay, well, I don't know how to charge, or people aren't coming to me. You have to get really comfortable with the offerings that you have. So, for example, if you have a copywriting business, you can either do a couple things. You can charge hourly, right? So you have a set price. You're like, whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm reading, whatever I'm writing, it's this much per hour. Or you could have a package price. So, for example, you could do a project price. So I will do, usually around 10 pages of this. You'll get it in a week and it's X amount of dollars. And so when you just kind of stay within these parameters, like for your work, if it's a service-based business, it's a lot easier for you to wrap your head around getting paid for that service, because it's not all like, well, it's different for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like that, because we often want to like mold things for different people, but like, oh, you can't pay that? Okay, I'll drop off $20. It's like, no, just
absolutely
price, and people will pay that. And I think people often feel more comfortable knowing that you have a set price too. It shows them you have confidence and you know your self-worth as well, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
So yeah, I mean, you said dog massage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yes.
I would probably do, you could do a one-time price, or you could have a package of 10 times, right? That they could use throughout a year within 365 days, right? So just kind of set those boxes of your service, and it'll be a lot easier for you to figure out what you're doing, for sure. All right, Sheena.
So for me, it's just pricing my work. I never know what value to put on it. And I've sold pieces, like quite a few, and I always do them quite cheap because I feel like I shouldn't be charging for something that brings me so much joy, right? So if I leave at the end of the day kind of breaking even, well, guess what? I enjoyed making that piece, but that's not getting me anywhere. So yeah. I just don't know how to price my work, to make it fair, but also so I'm not coming off as this, arrogant person who thinks, okay, I can charge like, thousands of dollars for something. So I just don't really know where, like, what to value my stuff at, I guess you could say. Like, do I charge by the hour? Do I charge by the piece? Do I, I just don't know. honestly. And I always tend to just sell myself short and do it cheaper. And like, I sold this one piece and it was beautiful. And she's like, I would have paid $200 more for that. Well, great, you're not paying $200 more for it, but I'll remember that next time. But I just don't know where to price my stuff at.
I think that artists really, like, that's the beauty of being an artist. You can really charge in so many different ways. And I know that some artists charge by the size. Like, no matter how much beauty and how much time goes into this, whatever size of canvas, that's the price, right? Like, that's something that they've boxed into their service. A lot of the time, like, if I've ever sold a painting before, it's been like, how much really went into that, right? But that's something for you to be really comfortable with, because the people aren't going to know and they're not going to care, right? They just care about the art that they're getting. So I think the thing is to know that no matter what your art is, that there is a market for it and somebody will buy it. Like, we know that like a dot on a canvas is sold for like $4 million. Why? Because they marketed the right clientele, right? So we got to find out, like, who is your ideal clientele to buy this? Is it just like Jim down the street, or is it Mary who loves, like, you know, wine tours, and like, you know, who's your clientele, right? So, because it won't be just everybody. Everybody will appreciate it and love the way it looks, but if you want to market it, you just got to market to a specific clientele, if that makes sense. So really figuring out like who your ideal customer is, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I speak to that for a sec?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just wanted to tell Sheena that the best way to price your work is to, number one, take the emotion out of it. Yeah. And the way you do that is to come up with a number of how much your materials cost, and then add also a price per square inch.
Ooh.
And there's no emotion at all involved. You're selling a product, and the fact that it brought you joy has nothing to do with your pricing of it.
No. And I'm pretty lucky. Like, I don't usually get attached to things. I'm like, whatever. If in the future I can make another one, it might not be the same because I'm not a machine, but it'll be similar, and I can let things go easily, which is great. But I never thought of, you know, doing the square inch plus the materials. I've always just thought, you know, it's either the materials and you add, you know, like say $50 on top, or it's just a square inch price. But thank you. I'll look into that.
And that might make you feel better too, you know, because you're going to get that random like 1 out of 20 person being like, how come that one's more than that one? And you can be like, yes. This is the formula. Like, you know what I mean? And you're good about it, and that's it, right? So yeah, that's
just to have that blunt answer for everybody, right? Like, this is my formula. It's not, well, I like this one better than that one. It's just, this is how I figure them all out. That's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Anna, I'll give you the question again in case we all forgot. So it was, how have your self-worth beliefs around your ability to create affected your ability to earn money around your passion? Oh, you're off. Can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Completely. I think it's been huge, like 100%. My first year specifically, I had like 7 weddings, and most of them were people that I knew. I gave them discounts. I'm glad I could do that because it gave me a good portfolio and stuff. But the first wedding that I booked at my current prices, no doubt was because of a mind shift, like a total mind shift. Like, I had to change my thinking about it because I was like, okay, my work is what I've charged for these friends of mine, instead of thinking about how I want to actually run a business. And it's not just because I want to pad my own bank account. I want to actually make a difference in the world. I want to give something to other people. So once I stopped really focusing on myself as much, I think my confidence changed quite a bit, and my insecurities weren't my main focus. Mm-hmm. Some of them are still there, but as I really started more focusing on what I could bring to the table for other people, I saw the value of what I was charging being worth it. Mm-hmm. So walking into a meeting and not feeling like I'm like, I don't know, trying to rip someone off or being like, these are my prices. Yeah. Instead being like, this is my price and I'm going to give you even more value than this in what I deliver to you, I think has really changed. And I don't know, just understanding that what I'm bringing is an original set of skills that are valuable has, just changed everything.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's really everything. Just, really coming to terms with knowing your value and knowing that you can charge more, right? And being comfortable with it. Because if you're comfortable with it, people will be comfortable with paying it, right? If you're not comfortable with it, people are not going to they won't know what's up, but they're not going to feel really comfortable working with you or your service, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we should wrap up. I want to kind of share with you guys before we go a few different things that are going on behind the scenes. And maybe a few of you have heard of them already before, but this is really, really good stuff. So one of them is a project that I'm going to be doing called the Golden Pineapple Project. And it sounds funny. You're like, what the heck is that all about? But there is a story behind it. And really it's all about coming to terms with embodying your gold that you have within you and letting go of all the creative fears, being creatively unique, standing up, wearing your crown like a pineapple, and being sweet on the inside. So there's also a part about, giving back to your community and the world and all of that. So that is a really interesting project that's going to be starting at the beginning of June. But in rolling out to that, I also have a totally free challenge that you can get into. It's called the Awakening Your Golden Goddess. And I'll give you the link right now. It's bit.ly/5daygold. And you can totally access that and get into that. I'm doing that with another coach online called Lisa Marie Pepe. She's super fun. She's a little bit more linear minded than me, so our balance is really good, if you will. But so that's a free challenge for you to get involved in. And then the thing about the Golden Pineapple Project is that I really want to make it a very strong movement where you can be involved as well. So for people that want to share this message, really believe in the message, we're doing affiliate links for all of you. And we really want you to run with it. So for example, if you are feeling comfortable about teaching something or feeling comfortable about a message that you have to share, we really want to share that within all the bonus material in the project itself. So at first, it's going to be like a project program, but it's really going to, I think, maybe turn into like a big membership or something like that down the road. But this is definitely like the beta test of it. So if you are someone who is confident in your message or really just wants to share your story about how you embodied your gold, really found your gold within you, your creative gold, we would definitely love for you to be a part of this. So we're kind of looking for creative advocates all over the world that can really kind of help start these little, I don't want to use fire sessions because that's been termed before. However, can really start these little pockets of creative fire all around, right? So that's the Golden Pineapple Project. And what else? Oh, I just wanted to mention to you guys that I do have a little thing happening behind the scenes in my private group. So it is the Citrine Abundance Activation Program, and I am increasing the price to it, I believe, next week. So anybody that's joined this little tiny program, it's only $99. By Friday, they actually get entered into a chance to win their money back. So that's by Friday afternoon. So the link for that is bit.ly/Citrine Abundance. And the citrine is spelled Citrine. And that's after the citrine crystal. So that's a little bit of a woo-woo side of things, but the Citrine Abundance Activation was really created for creatives. So it's all about releasing your money blocks and really embodying wealth consciousness for creatives. So there's a lot of subconscious clearings that go on within the program. There's also an amazing meditation for you to listen to throughout the program. It's a 34-day program. And there's these activities in the program that expand your wealth capacity, if you will. You're spending money every single day and it's growing and growing and growing. And it's so funny because at the end of the program, you're going to be like, did I actually buy that helicopter? I don't know. So the beauty of that is that money's not an object anymore. You know what I mean? You are that expansive when it comes to the money side of things. So it's a really awesome, fun program, and there's a lot of people doing it behind the scenes. So you'll have a great support system too if that is of interest to you. But I can't thank you enough for joining me on this call. I hope that everybody got something out of it, just kind of knowing that you're not alone in the creative world, if you will. And reach out to me, private message me on Facebook, and definitely join my little community there, Wild and Creative Magic Makers on Facebook. And yeah, reach out anytime. And I'm hoping to do, these kind of calls often so that we can share our stories and share our struggles and that kind of thing. And yeah, because that's what the creative community is all about, really. Sharing is like a sisterhood, right? Or a big community behind the scenes, right? So anyway, thank you so much. Is there anything that anybody wants to share or ask or anything like that before we go? Everybody's good? Okay. Well, I hope to see you all in some way, online or offline. And yeah, and so have a really wonderful day, and I hope to connect with you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a great day.